Once again, good morning to all of you. In today's celebration of the Word, I would like to draw your attention to a very interesting character of the Holy Scriptures, whose life had become a perfect example of faithfulness, courage, and self-sacrifice, and most importantly, obedience to God rather than men. This person lived during the time when the Israelites were in exile. They lost their freedom of self-governance, and therefore they were forced to live and work under a foreign government. This took place when the Assyrians conquered the last stronghold of the kingdom of Judah, and everyone was deported to Babylon. Around 600 years before the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ. The people at this time began to wonder if God still remembered them. Would He still honor the covenant He made with their ancestor Abraham despite their sinfulness? They felt abandoned and they started to lose hope. This is the story about Daniel. And this is how it all began. Daniel was chosen among the young Israelites to serve the king's court. The king ordered that Daniel, together with his companions, be given a special treatment by providing them the necessary comforts, such as food and accommodation, and in teaching them the language and literature of the kingdom. But right from the start, Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the food and wine from the king's royal table. He insisted to the king's chief steward that he and his companions be spared from the food of the king's table and be given only vegetables to eat and water to drink. He was able to convince the chief steward by making a deal with him that only after eating vegetables and drinking water for 10 days that he could compare their appearance with the rest of the king's young courtiers. At the end of 10 days, much to the surprise of the chief steward, Daniel and his companions were stronger in appearance and fatter in flesh than all the young courtiers who ate from the king's royal table. God saw in Daniel his pure intentions and loyalty to him, so He gave Daniel and his companions proficiency in all literature and science, and most especially to Daniel, wisdom and understanding in all visions and dreams. Indeed, by passing this first test, Daniel became the symbol of hope to all the people of Israel. God continued to inspire him to lead the people to prayer and realization that they brought themselves to exile because of their sins. And on behalf of the people, Daniel continued to offer supplications to God to allow them to return to the promised land and worship Him in the temple again. Around 200 years after the seed of hope was planted by God through Daniel, the opportunity to realize this dream finally came true when King Cyrus of Persia gave the people of Israel permission to go back to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. 200 years is so much for us, but it's nothing compared to the time of God. we learn from Daniel's experience that patience will always pay off in prayer. Today, we no longer struggle to return to Jerusalem, to build the temple in order to seek and worship God. By the power of our own baptism, God has given us the freedom to worship Him in the Spirit. And through our own baptism, God has entered a new covenant with us through our Lord Jesus Christ. Under this new covenant, a new commandment is given to us to love one another just as He loved us. Furthermore, He also says, if a man loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our home with him.